I grabbed my phone, opened WhatsApp, messaged my sister Sajida and asked, "What do you think about doing something different this weekend?" She replied with a message asking, "What could we possibly do that's different, Hazam?" Without thinking, I replied and told her to go to our old family house in the countryside. When I saw she'd read my message but was slow to respond, I knew she was hesitant. So I sent another message before she could refuse, saying, "I'm on my way. We'll talk when I arrive." When I arrived, I sat down with her, and that's when she said to me, "What made you think of the countryside after all these years? And what's so attractive about it that would make us leave here and head out there just to spend the weekend?" I had anticipated her question. That meant I didn't need time to think, and I answered her. "We've been going out here for the weekend our whole lives. There's almost no place we haven't been to the point where we keep repeating the same places over and over. Honestly, I'm feeling bored and I want to do something different." "And what different thing do you think we'll find at the family house?" "I know there's nothing there but fields, houses, and a routine life. But we haven't been there since our grandfather passed away, may God rest his soul. I mean, since we were just children. So I'm thinking we should go open the house and spend the weekend there. I'm even thinking of calling Mahar and Ali, our cousins. I'm thinking they could come with us." I talked to her about the countryside atmosphere that we've missed for so many years. And after a long discussion, I was able to convince her. And when I called Hazm and Aliyah, I convinced them too. I agreed with them that they would meet us Thursday late afternoon at our grandfather's house. That's because we have the house key, kept in our father's desk drawer. In the name of God and with God's blessing, let's start the episode. In the name of God. This episode is a new story and a new installment in a series of listeners' experiences and tales. Your very own tales. Let's start today's episode and say, in the name of God. Thursday late afternoon, Sajida and I arrived at the house. We got out of the car, and each one of us took their bag. We walked toward the door. The door's creaking was truly terrible. As I opened it, it was as if it was protesting that someone disturbed its sleep and moved it after all these years, and it decided to release the pain of time. When it moved, Sajida said to me, "Go easy on the door so it doesn't come off." "What door would come off, my sister? This is like the castle doors of the old days. Don't you see how its hinges are built? And that creaking sound that pierced our eardrums?" The door finally opened. We dragged the bags in, and everything was just as we left it last time. The only difference was the smell of the walls, which had been locked away for so many years that they'd soaked up the humidity. I looked at Sajida and said, "Why is the house so full of humidity?" "It's natural, Hazm. A house locked for years. What do you expect it to smell like? 5-5's cologne, for instance?" "Goodness, are you making fun of me, Sajida? You're very strange. You were the one who suggested we spend the weekend here. And at the same time, you're surprised the place smells musty and the walls are full of dampness." "Please don't make a mountain out of a molehill. We're open now, the windows and the doors, and in just half an hour the smell will disappear, and the atmosphere will return to normal." I chose one of the many rooms in the house, and I put my bag in it. And Sajida chose a room too. After that, we started airing out the house. Not even an hour later, we found Mahar and Aliyah parking in front of the house and taking out their bags. And after they came in and greeted us, I found Maher, asking me what's wrong with the house's smell. I laughed at his question and said to him, "What smell, man? What would you have done if you were the one who opened the house a while ago?" When he heard me, he looked at me and said, "Did we really have to spend the weekend here? You come from Cairo and we come from Alexandria just to smell the dampness stuck in this old family house?" When the conversation took an unpleasant turn, Sajida intervened and said, "Enough, Maher, are we going to spend it complaining?" Maher didn't reply to her specifically, but he directed his words to all of us and said, "No complaining, guys. Have a nice weekend." Maher and I went out and sat in front of the house. We started a conversation that took us back to our childhood days, and we remembered all the games we played long ago in this courtyard. As for Sajida and Aliyah, they went into the kitchen to prepare dinner from the food we brought with us. And after they finished, they called us. We went in and had dinner. Maher stood there in the living room and told us, "We're in the family house now, the one that hasn't been open for years. My goodness, there's nothing here but my grandfather's black and white TV with an antenna. And even the antenna wire is cut, so it won't pick up anything. And the radio that Sears probably fed up with sitting around. Might as well break down myself, too. To the point that the speaker fell off on its own from the magnet inside it. Even the phone reception is still as weak as it was back then. I can't even get on to browse anything. Truly a very entertaining weekend. It'll make us forget the grind we've been through all week." When he finished, Aliyah replied to him and said, "How about we play a game of truth?" As soon as Maher heard her, he spoke to her and said, "Why don't we play hide and seek instead? What is this childish mood?" When I felt he was pushing it too far, I said to him, "Let it go, man. Can't you swallow your words toward your sister?" "Man, I'll keep my mouth shut and be quiet. The only thing left now is to find our grandfather coming out of one of the rooms and telling us, 'Come here, kids, I'll tell you a story.' Just like I used to do back then." When we reached this point, I knew the weekend was ruined, and for the tension that occurred to end, each one of us went aside and started entertaining themselves in their own way. By the time the clock passed 12 midnight, I heard Maher calling us from the living room. When we gathered around him, he said, "I found the solution. I found the solution that will end the state of boredom." Tajida commented then and said, "And what is the solution? From your point of view, genius interview. We'll play a game like hide and seek." When he said that about it, she replied and said, "Isn't this the same idea? The one you mentioned about kids' games and stuff?" That's when he started explaining the idea and said, "The game is called the Sealer." Before he could finish, I cut him off and said, "What seal? What stamp, son, did the smell of dampness you inhaled affect you, or what? What's wrong with you? Are you stoned? Please don't make me feel like you sniffed it all and started losing your mind. An idea. I'm being serious, guys. Give me a chance, please. Let me explain the game's idea to you." Without waiting for our approval, he began explaining the game. It's simply the same idea as hide and seek. One person will take on the role of the chaser, and the rest participating in this game will hide from him. The difference here is that the chaser will stamp with his thumb on the forehead of the person who gets caught, and he will say to them, "I seal you with the seal of the Faceless One." At that point, the person who gets sealed will stay frozen in their place, and it's forbidden for them to move until the game ends. And all the remaining participants get caught and sealed too. I noticed Sajida and Aliyah listening to them completely stunned. Even I was stunned by what I was hearing. That's when I told him, hold Hold on, man. Your imagination has run wild and your mind has wandered off, or what? Sealer, the one you want us to play. And anyway, who is this faceless one you're talking about? His answer was stranger than the game idea itself, because he answered my question and said, he is the owner of the game, and he's supposed to be the one who collects the sealed ones at the end. I looked at him in total amazement, and I said to him, it seems like you're completely out of it. If I had known this, I swear I wouldn't have thought about us coming to the house in the first place. In the end, curiosity had another opinion, because after some back and forth, I found that each one of them had a desire to try the game without even asking or questioning where Mahar got this game or its idea, or who this person is who will collect the sealed ones in the end. And even though we understood that this game, or the idea of this game, was just nonsense, yet we agreed. And even I found myself wanting to try it, as if the name of the game itself had some secret that pulled us into playing it. That's when I looked at them and said, fine. So we've agreed that we will play the sealer. All that's left is to determine who the chaser is. When I asked them about it, she spoke up and said, simple. As long as you're passing the time with local games, let's play Kilo Bamia. And whoever turns out different from us in that will be the chaser. We put our palms face down on top of each other, and in one voice we said, Kilo Bamia. After that, everyone pulled their hand away, and the one chosen to be the chaser was yours truly. Then I turned it into a comedy and imitated Ahmed Berier's accent from Pharaoh of Paper while telling them, I will seal you all. After we joked around a bit, we started the game. I put my face against the wall and closed my eyes, and I counted from 1 to 10, exactly as we agreed. And during that time, I heard their footsteps as they ran around randomly. Each one of them was trying to find a place to hide. And at the last numbers of the count, the sound of the footsteps disappeared. When I reached the number 10, I opened my eyes and looked into the hall. The place was empty and silence dominated everything. It was as if I was alone in the house. I started looking for them while saying, I sealed you with the seal of the Faceless One. This was according to the game instructions I understood from Mahar. The first thing I did was start looking under the couches while repeating that phrase. At that moment, the hall light began to flicker. I didn't pay attention to what happened. I said maybe because the bulb is old, so it started flickering. I continued the game. When I didn't find any trace of them, I decided to enter the first room. This is the room I am sitting in. I turned on the room light, then opened the wardrobe while repeating the same phrase. I sealed you with the seal of the Faceless One. At that time, I found nothing but my clothes. I looked under the bed and also discovered there was anything under it. Before I made a decision to go to another room, I felt movement under the sofa next to the wardrobe. I approached it while trying not to attract attention. I wanted to surprise whoever was hiding. And with every step toward the sofa, I heard a loud scratching sound. When I got down on the floor and grabbed the sofa cover and lifted it suddenly while repeating the phrase that I felt strongly was the icon or motto of the game, I discovered the area under the sofa was empty. Despite that, the scratching sound was still there. The room light flickered suddenly. The same thing that happened in the hall repeated. and then I heard a whisper next to my ear. "I am the one who sealed you with my seal of the Faceless One." My nerves failed. The sofa cover fell from my hands, and I crawled on the floor to get away, because I was surprised by toes coming out from under the cover. Or to be more precise, I saw a set of feet coming out from under the sofa, and there was someone standing under it. I swallowed hard and approached the sofa again. It's as if my body made me feel that the distance between me and the sofa was miles. When I arrived, I lifted the cover with a shaky hand, and I discovered that the feet had disappeared, and the sofa was still empty underneath. The sound I heard coming from outside made me stop thinking about what happened. This was because I heard the whispering of Sajda and Aliyah. They were likely hiding in one place. And when time passed without me reaching them, they got bold and started talking, to the point that they got carried away and their voices started to appear. At the same time, the silence dominating the place made my ears pick up the whispering easily. I left the room and walked following the whisper, until I found myself going toward the living room. I opened the door, went in and turned on the light. My eyes scanned the whole room. I focused on an old wooden table with a tablecloth hanging to the floor. At that moment, I noticed the tablecloth moving. I didn't need more than that to know that Sajda and Aliyah were under the table. I walked on my tiptoes despite, even though I am sure they knew I entered the room, especially since I turned on the light. When I reached the table, I lifted the tablecloth suddenly. At that moment, they screamed as soon as they were exposed. Each one of them ran off in a different direction, according to the rules of the game. I focused on each of their foreheads. I had my thumb ready to seal one of them. At the door, Sajida managed to slip away from me, but I was able to seal Aliyah's forehead as I said out loud, "Sealed you with the seal of the Featureless One." She froze in place. I left her and went out to the hall to look for Sajida and Maher, to seal them and end the game. Or, since I didn't know where Sajida had escaped, I returned to the room to search it while chanting the game's motto. When I found nothing, I gathered myself and went to Aliyah's room with Arias. As soon as I entered, I turned on the light while chanting. The light bulb flickered, and I heard digging under the sofa again. I moved quickly to surprise whoever was under the sofa and managed to seal their forehead. As soon as I got on the floor in front of the sofa cushion, I glimpsed those same 10 fingers again. This time, curiosity made me lift the sofa cushion faster, and for the second time I discovered it was empty underneath. The digging sound was still there until it gradually disappeared on its own. I put the cushion back and opened the wardrobe, while chanting the game's motto. My heartbeat quickened when I heard the same voice that said, "I sealed you with the seal of the Featureless One," echoing in the wardrobe, saying exactly this: the Featureless One is not in this wardrobe. You must open the right wardrobe. My hand shook and dropped the wardrobe door against my will. The door slammed shut on its own. It was as if the owner of the voice was punishing me for opening the wrong wardrobe. At that moment, I felt a state of madness. I ran out of the room looking for Sajida and Mar while thinking about the wardrobe I was supposed to open. Then I found myself standing right in front of a bedroom door. I opened the door while swallowing hard. My hand reached for the light switch to turn it on. When the room lit up, I fell upon the wardrobe. I walked toward it with slow steps, feeling that this was the intended wardrobe. And as soon as I grabbed the doors to open it, I heard Sajida behind me saying, "Help me, Hazem." Alia was standing frozen at the room's door. Her eyes were very white and blank, and her face looked strange. I couldn't believe I found her in front of me. I stretched out my finger and sealed her on her forehead. I told her, "I sealed you with the seal of the featureless one." As soon as I sealed her, she froze and couldn't move. Her eyes remained fixed on me without blinking. Then I said to myself, "Only Maher is left, and the game ends." Then I heard the same voice whispering in my ear. "That's right, Hazem. The game must be closed. Because the one who will receive the sealed ones at the end of the game is waiting." Despite every word, something strange inside me was driving me to reach Mahar and end the game. I opened the wardrobe and didn't find Mahar inside. And then I heard the voice saying, "Didn't I tell you, Hazem, to open the right wardrobe?" I left Mahar's room with only one place left. My grandfather's room. I walked toward it to go to the wardrobe. On the way, I stopped at the room door. The room where she was standing, frozen in place. I looked at her and found her features as if wiped away with an eraser. But her eyes were erased. Below them it had all turned white. At that moment, I remembered what Sajda told me before I sealed her, when she said my face looked strange. Despite all that, I ignored what was happening, and I followed my desire to find Mahar. As soon as I entered the room, I felt hands pinning my arms behind my back, and I heard Mahar telling me to wake up. "Hazem, wake up. We are destroying ourselves. The sealing isn't a game. It's a curse, and we've opened its door upon us." I turned my head toward him, smiled at him while trying to free my arm from his grip, and said in a cold tone, "Only you are left, Mahar. Once I free my arm from your hand, I will seal you, and thus I will end the game, and you will go with them to whoever will receive the sealed ones in the end." As soon as I finished speaking, he let go of my arms. And before I could make any reaction toward him, he raised his hand and struck me hard on the back of my head. At that moment, the whole world went dark suddenly, and I no longer felt anything. I started blinking. Back then, I saw a light appearing and disappearing in front of me like lightning. I moved my head to figure out where I was. And that's when I felt more than one hand trying to revive me. The voice I heard was my sister Sajda's voice when she said, "Wake up, Hazem." With time, the heaviness in my head faded and consciousness returned to me. That's when I saw Sajda, Maher, and Alia sitting around me. Not to mention that I was on the bed in my room, and next to the closet I saw our bags packed and closed. I looked at them in confusion and said, "What happened? How did I get here?" Maher answered my question on their behalf and said, "Sajda and I carried you and brought you here after he recited over you to break the control." I stared at him, not understanding anything. But he cut the story short for me and said, "Let me explain the story briefly, so we can gather our things and leave." When we felt bored and each of us went in a different direction, I went to amuse myself in your grandfather's room. When I searched, I found a small box in the closet. I opened it and found old pictures of my grandfather, my grandmother, my father, and your father and your father. We even found a few pictures of us when we were young. I kept looking at them and dug deeper into the box, and I found an old yellowed paper. When I opened it, I found it written in your grandfather's handwriting. It was talking about the game called The Sealer and its details. Just as I explained to you exactly at the beginning of the game. I felt it was suitable, to break the boredom we were in. And when I thought of a place to hide, I chose your grandfather's closet. But while I was hiding, every time I heard you saying the game's slogan, I felt someone beside me. And I began to feel that the words you were saying summoned something strange, and also opened the door for it to enter our world. Until I heard Sajda's voice while she was telling you that Alia's features had vanished. And by the time I decided to come out and confront you, I was surprised that Sajda had also reached Alia's state. You yourself were in a state. It was strange, so I decided to stop you by any means before you could mark my forehead and finish a game that we don't even know what would have happened if it had ended. I had no other choice but to hit you on the head so you would lose consciousness. He was telling all these details while I was imagining the shape of the feet that had appeared to me. And every time I lifted the sofa cushion to see who they belonged to, I found they had vanished. Not to mention that I remembered the voice that spoke to me more than once and encouraged me to continue. And for the first time, I found myself thinking about the source of that voice. When I connected all of this to what Maher said, I became convinced that this was the strange thing the game had opened the door for to enter our world. And it wouldn't be a stretch if the light that kept shaking every time I recited the game's motto was proof of its presence. Only then did I comment and ask him, even though I believed him, is what you're saying even possible? Maher, can a mere game do all this? That is exactly what happened. When I found the story to be strange and you had just lost consciousness, I went to wake Sheikh Rizq. You know him. He used to teach us the Quran back in the day. And when I brought him home and told him the story, he said something very strange. The Sealer is a game that appeared in this village a long time ago, Aletta. When the children started playing it, each one would get marked. The color of their eyes would turn white, not to mention that their facial features would change, and they would develop a skin disease. At the time, they thought that cataracts had spread among the children, along with the skin disease, and the infection had passed between them. This was, of course, before they discovered the truth about the game, and realized it had entered our world through a person who appeared in the village only once. At the time, he explained the details of the game to some boys who used to play near the graves. After he explained it, he left them. He walked into the graves and vanished. And afterward, they realized that his appearance and disappearance proved he was a demon, and the greatest proof was that cursed game he taught the kids through which he controlled the haunted. To mark the largest number possible with a cursed demonic seal, which is nothing but the game's motto. And the seal allows him to take over their consciousness and control them. And that way the curse spreads throughout the whole village. When the villagers realized that the matter was strange and could not be ignored, they brought a sheikh from another town, and he was the one who revealed the secret of the sealer to them. At that time, he broke the seal's control over them, and things went back to normal. He said that the return of the demon depended on this game being played again. And since then, the game died out, and no one in the village thought to play it or even mention it. And talk about it effectively died. I couldn't process what I was hearing, but curiosity made me ask him, why would our grandfather write the details of this game on a piece of paper and keep it in his box of memories? Maybe he wrote it to preserve memories of the past. And maybe he also played this game and was one of the children who was released from its control. And perhaps that is what made him write it down and keep it. And he hadn't planned for, nor did he expect that his grandchildren might play it and open a door themselves for the demon to return once again. At that moment, Sajda spoke and said, Sheikh Rizq said he did what was necessary. He told me we wouldn't have returned to our normal selves. And he even burned the paper your grandfather wrote on about this Khatamma game, so that no one would ever open that door again. I felt a sense of relief inside me when I knew the paper had been burned. I looked toward Maher, and without me saying a word, he said, I'm sorry, Hazem. When I read about the game in the paper and suggested we play it, I didn't know all of this would happen. Perhaps fate brought us here and made us open the house after all these years because it was locked over a curse. And it was finally time for it to leave and come to an end. No one knows what its existence might have caused in the future. Forgive me, everyone, I was just as surprised by this story as you were. We all forgave him. After that, I looked toward the window, and when I saw that day was near to break, I asked them then, do you want to head back or will you finish the weekend here? I discovered that they wanted to stay. Even I, deep down, wanted to stay. That is why I asked them while I knew they had the same desire. But this time we stayed, knowing that Khatamma had left the house forever, and it took the devil's door with it as it left. Before I close the story, I want to tell you that this was not the last weekend at the old family house. From the time this story happened, we started going there from time to time. Even the fear of the place was no longer there for us, because we had no intention of playing the Khatamma again, or opening the door and giving the devil a chance to return. And thus it has ended. Today's episode, story, and experience. You have the right, my friend, to believe or disbelieve all or part of the episode, for these are the listener's experiences, your own tales. I thank writer Muhammad Abdel Rahman Shahat for writing this episode in the radio format you just heard. I also thank writer Lisa Zagul for her preparation of all episodes of the General of Horror program in the end. I thank Mustafa Al-Masri for the sound effects and music. And I thank you all for your kind listening. If you are new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe. Join the channel and turn on the bell icon to receive everything new. But if you are one of those who like to support me, please don't forget to like, comment, and share. Thank you very much. You were with Muhammad Quaili and the General of Horror program. Peace be upon you.